He always said he'd go out with a bang. My father, Howard Crane, 40 years as the head of logistics at Hawthorne Steel. A man who lived in pressed collars, polished shoes, and pride thicker than his cologne. Every day of my childhood I heard the same lines from him. Respect is earned, blood is earned, weakness is inherited. I didn't understand that last part until much later. I was 10 when I first heard the word adopted, whispered like a disease. I walked into the kitchen for a glass of water, only to hear my mother say, "We should have just told her the truth by now. She's not stupid." And he responded, "She's lucky we kept her at all." I stood there, staring at the faucet, trying to pretend I wasn't real for a second, that maybe the water would wash away what I heard. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. But it never left me. Not then. Not through the beatings he called discipline. Not through the years of being second to my younger sister Abigail, the golden child with the same nose as him and the same temper as my mother. I was always the outsider. But I still stayed. I still tried. Until the night he made sure I'd never forget who I was to him. The retirement party was supposed to be a celebration. I had helped to plan the entire thing, booked the venue, printed the banners, called the old coworkers he used to drink with. Not because I loved him, but because I wanted to believe. Maybe, just maybe, I could finally be acknowledged. It was held in a local golf club ballroom, big white columns, fancy lights, overpriced shrimp cocktails. Abigail floated around in a glittery blue dress, hugging guests like a debutante. My mother took credit for organizing everything, even though I had handled every detail. But I stayed quiet. I always did, because if I stayed invisible long enough, maybe I wouldn't get hurt. Then came the speeches. My father stood behind the mic, gripping the podium like a preacher ready to give his final sermon. 40 years, he began. 40 years loyalty, hard work, and building something that'll outlast me. The crowd clapped. He continued, voice strong, proud. I want to thank the people who stood by me. My beautiful wife, Margaret, my rock, my legacy, my daughter, Abigail. People clapped again. Then he turned to me. And then there's Natalie. I smiled, just a little, waiting. She came into our lives when she was 4, a troubled girl, abandoned. I told Margaret, we can't turn the house into a shelter, but she insisted. Some people chuckled. My throat tightened. She never quite fit in, but we fed her, raised her, tried to teach her what a real family looks like. Laughter bubbled in the room. I felt it hit my face like heat from a blast furnace. My father's smile sharpened. She may not be blood, but we gave her everything. Some would say, too much. But that's what family does, right? Even for adopted garbage. I didn't move. I couldn't. The room fell silent. Some laughed nervously. Others whispered. And he moved on just like that. Kept talking. Kept breathing. Meanwhile, I sat frozen at table 5, hearing those 2 words repeat in my skull like a drumbeat. Adopted garbage, adopted garbage. I stood up slowly, walked toward the hallway. Abigail tried to follow. Nat, he didn't mean it like that, she said quickly. I turned and looked at her. Yes, he did. He meant every syllable. Then I left, and I didn't look back. I went home that night and opened the file I'd been quietly building for 3 years, the folder marked just in case. Inside were documents, screenshots, copies of forged invoices, expense reports, and one long paper trail that led to a hidden pension account my father never disclosed to my mother, nor to the company. I found it 4 years ago while helping him organize old taxes. I was supposed to delete the backup files, but I didn't. Because part of me always knew he'd use the word garbage again one day. And when he did, I'd take everything he built and watch it burn. The thing about men like my father is that they never think anyone's watching, especially not the people they underestimate, especially not the garbage. After the retirement party, he tried to reach out twice. A short text. Don't be dramatic. Then a voicemail. You embarrassed yourself, not me. No apology, no hesitation, just the same smug righteousness he always wore like armor. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I was already working. Over the next week, I assembled everything: expense logs, routing numbers, fake consulting fees, and his shadow account hidden under the name Crane Legacy Holdings. The name was almost poetic, arrogant, traceable. Years ago, when I'd helped scan his records, I noticed one weird file labeled HLC Retention. Inside, a fake employee listed under his department. My father had been submitting bonuses to that ghost employee quarterly and cashing them into a second pension fund, untaxed, hidden. It was classic him. Lie, pocket the difference, blame someone else. But now, I had everything, and I wasn't going to the police. I wasn't going to the company. That would have been too easy. I went to Margaret, my mother, his wife. We weren't close. She once told me I lacked the polish Abigail had. But she liked her lifestyle, her expensive wine, her bi-weekly spa visits, the friends who fawned over her perfect marriage. So I printed 2 copies of everything, slipped them into a sleek black envelope, one marked for her, one for Abigail. Then I waited. It didn't take long. 3 days later, she showed up at my apartment. No call, no text, just a sharp knock on the door. I opened it to find her in dark sunglasses, lips pale, holding the envelope like it was radioactive. "You had this the whole time?" I nodded. "He's been hiding money from me. From us?" "I guess he only shares with people he considers real family." Her lips quivered. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just said, "What do you want?" That was the moment, the shift, the part of the story where I could have asked for forgiveness, could have asked for an apology. But I didn't want their words anymore. I wanted his silence. I leaned forward and said, "I want his pension, all of it." She looked at me like I was mad. "You can't just take it. That's illegal." "Only if someone reports it," I said, handing her a second envelope, this one with login credentials and a transfer form. "He trusts you with access, right? Just say he gave it to you." She didn't answer right away, but she took the envelope. That night, Abigail called me. No rage, just a quiet voice. "You know he's going to find out." "I'm counting on it." And he did. 3 days later, I got the call. Blocked number. I answered just to hear the crash. "I know what you did," he roared. "You stole from me, you lying little—" I didn't flinch. I just asked, "Who's going to believe you? You'd have to admit you hid money from your wife, forged records, and robbed your own company." Silence. Then, "You think this makes you smart?" "No," I said. "It makes me done." And then I hung up. But I wasn't finished. He had a follow-up event the next weekend, a private dinner with his former executives and board members. Another speech, another spotlight. I arrived early, quiet, blended in. He stepped up to the podium with the same smug face, but this time he looked smaller, paler. The charm cracked. Before he could speak, I walked up, handed the host a note, and whispered, "It's from his daughter." The host, an old colleague, read it aloud. "To the man who once called me adopted garbage, thank you. You taught me everything about survival, including how to find your dirty money, clean it up, and leave you standing with nothing but a mic and your mouth." The room fell still. He opened his mouth to deny it, but no sound came. The host blinked. "Is this true?" He stumbled, sweated, didn't answer. And I walked out, calm, collected, not once looking back as I left him standing at the podium. Just like he once left me in a kitchen at 10 years old, wondering if I was ever enough to feed. The fallout was swift. By Monday morning, his retirement plaque was still on his office wall, but the phone wasn't ringing anymore. His ex-colleagues stopped returning his emails. The whispers began circulating faster than any denial he could draft. He tried to reach out again. 3 voicemails. First, rage. Second, desperation. Third, silence, followed by a single whispered sentence. "You destroyed me." I listened to that one twice. Then I deleted it. I wasn't interested in destroying him. That was too dramatic, too loud, too much like him. What I wanted was hunger not for food, but for what he could never get back. Control. Pride. Legacy. I didn't take away his money to feel powerful. I took it to make a point. You can't build an empire out of cruelty and expect loyalty in return. And in a final stroke of irony, I gave the money away. Not all of it, just enough to sting. I made anonymous donations under his name to 3 organizations he openly mocked, one for foster kids, one for single mothers, and one for adopted youth services. Each donation came with a message, in honor of Howard Crane, who taught me exactly what not to be. He couldn't escape it. He couldn't explain it. And he couldn't erase it. The rest of the funds? I used them to build something quiet and permanent, a real home not with portraits of fake smiles, but with peace, with Caleb, with no need to earn my worth through someone else's approval. Abigail stopped speaking to him 2 months later, not because I asked her to, because she finally saw the truth. Margaret never left him, but she stopped defending him. That was enough. He spends most of his days now sitting on the back porch alone. I know because one of his old coworkers sends me photos sometimes. I don't ask for them. He just sends them with a single line of text. Still waiting for his audience. But there isn't one. Because the spotlight is gone. The podium is empty. And even his shadow knows it doesn't belong to him anymore. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need revenge with fire and fury. I just needed to remind him what silence feels like. When no one's clapping anymore. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.